Hello and welcome to Stretches for String Players. Today we'll be doing a few different stretches for the forearms and finishing up with some work for the thumbs. So let's begin. You're going to take your left hand palm face up, just like so. Then go ahead and cover the fingertips with the right hand. We're going to pull those fingers back towards the forearm and at the same time straightening the left arm. So I like to grab just near the tips of the fingers as much as possible. That gives me a little bit more leverage in this position. And you want to start to feel a nice stretch all along the forearm here. Now notice if that left shoulder wants to creep up, can you slide the shoulder blade down the back? Just take some smooth inhales here, some smooth breaths. Breathing in and out through the nose. And perhaps with every exhale, you can relax a little bit more into this stretch. Now, if you want to add a little bit more, you can actually pull the thumb away from the rest of the hand. One more breath here. And then rather than release, we're actually going to bend the elbow. And this is going to change the stretch. So now we're taking this more into the finger flexors. Keep pulling the fingers back towards the forearm. You can pull the thumb away. Remember, shoulder down. So shoulder blade sliding down the back. And gently let that go. Feel your hands, feel the difference between the two sides. And then of course, second side. So right palm face up towards the ceiling. We're going to cover the fingertips with the left hand and begin to pull the fingers back towards the forearm as you straighten the right arm. That shoulder might want to come up, so see if you can get the shoulder down away from the ear. And you might notice that this arm is better or worse, and that's perfectly fine. See if you can pull the thumb away from the rest of the hand. Can you send your next breath into the forearm? With the exhale, perhaps relaxing a little bit more. Let's go ahead and bend the elbow. Keep pulling the fingertips back towards the forearm. Pull the thumb away from the hand. Now the elbow is bent. Shoulder blades stay down. Make these breaths count. Let's go ahead, gently release. Feel the hands. Roll the fingers. And then can you spread your fingers as far apart as you can? We call this static jazz hands. And then roll the fingers once more. And you can make two fists, roll the wrists. All right, so second part. Still focusing on the forearms. Now, we were stretching the flexor side, and if you play a string instrument, then you do a lot of this kind of thing. And that's finger flexion, right? So you're bringing the finger down to the string. You're shortening all of these muscles, so it's super important to stretch them out as we just did. But what's often overlooked is that we actually, a lot of the time, deal with just a slight amount of habitual extension of the wrist. So if I kind of get this all in one line, this is a neutral wrist. But often when we play, the wrist actually comes into something like this sort of a position. And this is slight extension of the wrist. Now, this is also maybe a familiar position for something else that you do during the day, lots of typing. And what happens is very unique when we type, or for some of us when we put fingers down on an instrument, and this depends on your individual position, whether or not you do this here. But certainly when we type on a keyboard, we have the wrist slightly extended, and then from here, we begin to flex the fingers. Now, as a movement, there's nothing wrong with that. But when we do that a lot, then we can run into some problems. One of which can be the compression of the radial nerve. So for cellists, especially when you're playing your down bows and you find yourself way at the tip of the bow, notice that, yes, there's radial deviation of the wrist, but often your wrist is also an extension, and then the fingers are pointing down, holding the bow. So this position, if we're in this for too long, that can cause compression to the radial nerve. So let's stretch it out. You're going to make your fist. I'm going to start with the left side, making a fist. Notice I cover the fist with the thumb from the outside. Keep all the knuckles in one line. You're going to cover this, you're going to put your right hand on top of the left, and you're going to pull this fist down towards the forearm. Now, a couple of things. Can you have your wrist pointing up towards the ceiling? And then can you turn your elbow pit to also point up towards the ceiling? So my wrist is pointing up, and then the pit of my elbow is pointing up. I'm not doing this. See what this does to my shoulder? So get the pit of the elbow up as you pull the hand in towards the forearm. Smooth breaths here. Now you might notice that it's difficult to keep your fist in this position. So can you actually fight to keep your fist in fist shape? One more breath. Let's go ahead, let that go. This might feel a little bit intense, especially coming out of it. You're like, whoa, this is never going to work again. But just give it a little bit of time, and this hand will feel a lot better after these stretches. So, second side. Making a fist with the right hand now. The thumb is going to cover on the outside, when the knuckles in one line. Going to straighten that arm, cover the top of the hand with the left hand, and pull down towards the forearm. Now look at that elbow pit. See how it's pointing out to the side? Can you point it up towards the ceiling? And once again, you might feel a very distinct difference from one side to the next. So I'm a cellist, and I definitely feel this way more in my right arm. See if your fist is unfurling. Can you fight to keep it a fist? One last breath here. And gently let that go. Feel your hands. Once again, spread the fingers far apart, static jazz hands, roll the fingers. Then let's roll them the other way. Make two fists, roll the wrists. So now for the thumbs. So thumbs are super important to hand function. One of the most important things that we can do as humans is opposition. And unfortunately, the thumb is also where sometimes or often the muscles of the hand will begin to atrophy. So we'll run into problems with thumbs. You may run into problems with arthritis as well. Often it will present in the thumbs. So we got to take care of them, especially if we use them a lot, which we do. And of course, we generally tend to think of keeping the thumbs relaxed, but they're still absolutely critical to what we do as string players. So I'm going to start actually with a little exercise before we get into the stretch. So you're going to touch your thumb to your pinky. So the pad of the thumb to the pad of the pinky. And then imagine that you've caught a flea, 2 fleas. You're going to try and crush these fleas using the thumb and the pinky. And you should feel a strong contraction in the thumb as you do this. So this is exactly the kind of pressure that we don't want to be exerting when we're playing our instruments. But now we're doing it intentionally. We're focusing on this movement. Super, super important for functionality of the thumb. Now, let's go ahead and slide the thumb down the pinky to the crease on the inside of that distal joint. So I'm just a little bit lower now. And now crush the thumb into that knuckle of the pinky. Remember to breathe. Holding the breath won't help any of this. Let's go ahead and slide down to the next knuckle. Whoa. And this is where some of you may begin to actually experience difficulty with this movement. Perhaps almost a cramping in the thumb. There's nothing wrong with that. You can, if the thumb cramps, just shake it out. You can come back in. And then last one, if you can slide all the way down to the base. And this is where mine will start to cramp. Almost there. One last breath. Go ahead, let that go. Whoa. So let's come into the stretch. I'm going to make an L shape with the left hand. And then keep the wrist in one line. You're going to straighten the arm with this L shape. You're going to take your index finger of the right hand. You're going to go digging deep into the webbing between the thumb and the index finger. So you want to grab right in there. You're not pulling the thumb away from the hand. You're pulling underneath that base joint of the thumb. You want to pull that away from the rest of the hand. See if you can keep the left arm in one line. Careful that the wrist doesn't begin to bend one way or the other. And then spread the fingers of that hand apart. So you're pulling the fingers away from one another, pulling them away from the thumb, simultaneously pulling the thumb away from the rest of the hand. Remember, it's in the webbing. Shoulders down. See if you can keep everything else relaxed. So the only things working here are the right arm pulling, the fingers spreading. Relax the face, relax the shoulders, the neck. Just one more breath here. And go ahead and release. Once again, feel the difference in the two sides. So we sometimes think of the thumb as kind of just being this portion that sticks out from the rest of the hand. But really your thumb begins all the way down here in the palm. You can actually trace that bone all the way through. So you've got 3 bones. It's just in the inner thumb. It's just the bottom one is inside the palm, or what we think of the palm here. So when I'm pulling the thumb away, that's the bone that I want to pull away from the hand. It's not this guy here. This is fine. I don't want to put pressure on that joint in this way at all. So I'm going to go deep inside there. So second side, I'm going to make that L shape with the right hand. Arm goes straight, shoulder down. Index finger is going to dig in the webbing. And then your job is to try and pull the thumb away from the rest of the hand. Go ahead and spread the fingers, pulling the fingers apart, pulling the thumb away. It's going to be a bit of a tricky stretch to feel what's really going on, but after you've done it a few times, really begin to get the hang of it and sort of know what to feel for. So as you're doing this, pay attention to any body sensations. This whole practice is just about raising body awareness, becoming accustomed to feel the body, to feel whatever is going on, pleasant or otherwise. And then when we stop ignoring some of these problems that can arise, that's when we can begin to make a difference with them. One last breath. And go ahead, let that go. Feel the hands, roll the fingers, do whatever. It feels good right now just to notice how your hands feel different. One more thing for the thumbs. This is a simple one. I like to do this one when I'm maybe in a bit of a pinch for time. It stretches both thumbs at the same time. So that L shape we were making, we're going to do it with both hands. You're going to point one hand away from you and then one towards you. So one palm away and one palm towards you. It doesn't matter which side you do. Actually, it does matter which side you do. You want the top hand thumb face down. They can be flipped, but thumbs have to be looking at one another. And then, like 2 ships passing in the night, your thumbs are going to catch. You're going to apply pressure on the thumbs. So I'm pushing with quite a bit of enthusiasm. Once again, keeping the wrists in line, so none of this. As kind of straight, as neutral as possible on the wrists. Shoulders down, and spread the fingers apart. Smooth, slow breaths. If possible, always inhaling through the nose. And for these gentle practices, exhaling through the nose as well. One more breath. And gently let that go. For the last time, feel your hands, roll the fingers, make 2 fists, roll the wrists. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time.